Probability and its formula. Hi, I'm M. Asif Hussain from KnowHow Academy. What are we going to learn from this video? We are going to see what is meant by probability. What are the different kind of examples to understand the probability? We are even going to see and understand what is the formula of probability with some examples. My dear viewers, when I am talking about the word called probability, you all might know the word called probability. You might have heard it in your day-to-day life. Let me give you some small example. There might be the probability that this party can form the government. There might be the probability that this particular team can win the match. There might be the probability that this person can get 100% in his academics or in her academics. So probability is nothing but what? Something which is about to occur. It might be, which we are not sure about it. That is probability. In general, we hear about this word called probability in our day-to-day life. These are the general examples that I am talking to you about. Okay. So now, if I would like to even give you some small example, let me give you this one. There might be the probability that this person can win the toss. So what happens in this example? There might be the probability that this particular person, this particular team or this particular country can win the toss. It means that in a toss, there are only two possibilities, either heads or tail. If I am choosing heads, I am winning the toss. If the opposite team and opposite person, they are choosing tails, then they are winning the toss if the tail comes. So probability that this team can win, probability that this country can win the toss. So that is probability that I am talking about. So even when I am talking about this word called probability, so in data science, we work a lot on this probability. Okay, so the sequence of these videos now, we will learn something about the probability, some calculations part of it. If we remember from our 8th standard till we completed our intermediate, if you are MPC, okay, and few people in the bachelor's degree as well, so they might have learned this topic called probability and statistics. You might have learned this topic called probability and statistics. So there are various things that you have learned here in probability and statistics that was purely a theoretical part of the mathematical calculations. But here we will understand how this probability can be helpful in our data science, in our works that we are doing in a data science projects. Okay, so let me start you with this basic video first, then we'll go on in detail with our next few of the probability topics. So when I'm talking about this probability, okay, I have given you the example of a toss. Okay, in a toss, either one person should choose heads and another person should choose either tails. There is a probability that only one person can get heads. There is a probability that only one person can get tails, right? So in the same way, we even talk about this probability in the numbers also. Okay, if I talk to you about something called 40%, okay, so instead of writing a 40%, there is a probability that we might also write it as a 0.4. We also might write it as 0.4. There is a probability that I can write it as 0.4. So if we consider, in the mathematics, if I'm talking about the mathematics part for a few minutes, so starting from 0 to 1, okay, so starting from 0 to 1. So from 0, if we talk about the axis, okay, from starting 0 until 1, if I talk to you, okay, there might be 0.5, 0.8 or something like this. Okay, so if it is 1, it means that there is a highest probability of winning, there is a highest probability of getting the work done or something like that. If we consider the probability, if we consider the probability of 1, if not 0.8, 0.5, we talk about these decimal numbers here, right? So either 0, which is the lowest probability, and 1, which is the maximum having the highest probability of getting win or so on. So even if I would like to talk to you about example, if I consider, okay, So what's happening here is that let us consider that there is something called x. Okay, there is an event called x. There is some value, some variable called x. So the probability of x, I have to find it out. Okay, I need to find out the probability of x. So how should we find out the probability of x? What is the formula? The formula for finding out this probability of x is that what is the preferred outcome divided by the overall outcome. Okay. For example, let me give you an example that x. Okay, there is a probability event called x. So variable called x. So in this x, what's happening is that I am choosing in a toss, I am choosing something called as tails. Okay, I want tail. Okay, so I have to get tail. That is my preferred outcome. Am I right? In the toss, either heads or tails. I am choosing tails. It means that my preferred outcome is tails. Right? This is my preferred outcome. So the formula of x will be, the answer for this will be, preferred is 1, which is tails, divided by how many overall outcomes are there, either heads or tails, right? There are 2 heads and tails. So 1 divided by 2, which is equal to 0.5, So this is my probability of x. So I am expecting that I have to get tail. But I have how many possibilities? I have 2. So 1 divided by 2, it is 0.5. As simple as such. So in the same way, if I take we might have played snake and ladders. We might have played snake and ladders in our childhood. So what we do, we roll a die, right? We roll a dice. So what we do, we roll a dice. In this dice, there are how many faces? There are 6. There are 6 outcomes, right? So whenever we throw a dice, then I should get either any one face, either 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. There are only 6. So the preferred outcome is 1, but the overall outcomes are how many? There are 6. That's where it will be 1 divided by 6. In a decimal, if you would like to write 0.16. Okay. So this is one example of my tail, another example of dice. So like this, we have different kinds of understanding that we are working with the probability. Let me give you a small question. Let me see how many of you will answer this question correctly in a comment section. Okay. So the question is that, I'm explaining you the question here. The question is that I have 13 cards here. Where do I have it? I have 13 cards in suit. Okay. And I have 52 cards in deck. Okay. Now the question is that, what is the probability of drawing a spade from a standard deck of playing cards? What is the probability of drawing a spade from a standard deck of playing cards? So what is the answer for this question? I am expecting you guys to answer this question in a comment section. Let me see how many of you can answer it correctly. To repeat it again, the question is that I have 13 cards in suit, I have 52 cards in deck. So now the point is that if we consider overall, if I want to see the overall, so what is the probability of drawing a spade? The spade, I need to know the spade card, right? So we are drawing a spade from a standard deck of playing cards. So this is the question. Please answer this question in the comment section correctly. So thank you for choosing KnowHow Academy as your source for IT knowledge. We are always here to help you to navigate the tech world. If you have any questions, do not hesitate to reach out. It's been a pleasure sharing this information with you. Stay curious and keep learning.